Good afternoon, everyone. Phil Simons here with Columbia Grain and your weekly grain market recap. Well, another week is in the books, and to be quite honest with you, it felt pretty tame this week in relation to what we had been seeing the previous weeks. But when we take a look at the overall price action this week, we do see the ranges across the board were pretty close to 40 cents. But week on week, when the dust settled here today, the change was pretty minimal overall between corn, wheat, and soybeans. But we'll take a look at that here in just a minute. But really, this is just signaling to me that we have all become somewhat callous to the fact of the ranges that we've been seeing over the last year, to be quite honest with you, because 40-cent range in any commodity is still a big number. Although we have just become more callous to or accustomed to these types of numbers that we've been seeing here recently this year. So again, just another prime example of the importance of getting your orders out there, working with your local Columbia Grain merchandiser. Headlines again had the markets moving last night with the Turkish President Erdogan noting that he really didn't see much of an obstacle that could potentially block the extension of the grain safe passage agreement following the recent meetings of Russia and Ukraine over that matter. But I'm sure that there's going to be more to come on that front next week, and we will see probably close to the exact opposite being said at the beginning of the week, or at least we could potentially see that again. The U.S. dollar was also weaker on the day, giving us a bit of a bounce back in the grain complex as a whole. But weather is definitely becoming a driver overall throughout the U.S. as the Mississippi River is still just a big mess. But starting to see some potential moisture building back into that area, which could give them a bit of relief, but still a long way to go with the Gulf system. And the Gulf exporters just extremely leery on offering any new export business for the time being, just as execution becomes more and more of a big question mark, whether or not they can actually stem their system or not. Other weather influences continue to show up. And I am going to share my screen with you again here just to take a look at our ColumbiaGrain.com website so that we can see all this information out there. Again, if we just navigate to ColumbiaGrain.com and go over to the upper right-hand corner for Producer Solutions tab, we can see that the Drought Monitor Index for the U.S. anyway, that was actually released yesterday, Thursday, October 20th. We are definitely seeing some dryness concerns starting to mount in that northern tier of Montana, which is definitely getting some attention out there. But again, this weekend we may be seeing some moisture levels that can alleviate some of the concerns over in that Montana area. So again, just more to watch in terms of what could potentially influence the markets as we move forward. But again, just another concern and something to keep on the radar for the time being anyway. Export sales this week that were released were actually really good for soybeans. And let's take a look at the U.S. export sales report from Thursday. We can see that the soybean number was actually very, very big. Corn and wheat, on the other hand, did come in well below where they really need to be in order to be on pace for what the USDA is currently estimating us to have for both corn and wheat. But we can see that the current USDA estimates are 2.1 billion bushels of corn. We see that the marketing year-to-date sales for U.S. corn are 545 million bushels. We can see what that means when we say, okay, what do we need to get on a per week basis? We do need to get 34.9 million bushels per week. And just this past week, we saw sales at 16.1 million bushels. So well behind where we need to be. In similar fashion, wheat export sales, we can see that the current USDA estimates for all U.S. export sales are coming in at 775 million bushels. And the marketing year to date, we're just over 414 million bushels. So when we equate that on what do we need per week in order to hit the current USDA estimates, we are needing 11 million bushels on the week. And this just last week, we had 6 million bushels for all wheat export sales. So again, just something to highlight the fact that the prices, the futures levels are really all over the place, and we are seeing these knee-jerk and whipsaw reactions. But when we look at how competitive we are from a global standpoint on a wheat front, we're definitely fishing behind the net a little bit, especially when we see the Black Sea origins continue to trade some $90 to $100 discount to U.S. hard wheat values anyway. But for right now, the weather and the geopolitical influences are still in the driver's seat. So be sure to get your orders out there and working, as the unrest is definitely going to continue to magnify the markets and what we could potentially get. And just remember that no order is a bad one right now. And remember, the market will do whatever is necessary to fool the majority. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk with you next week.